In the early morning hours of October 5th, 2020, a young woman was captured on surveillance footage leaving a Dallas nightclub. 23-year-old Maricela Botelho Valadez, visiting from Seattle, climbed into a car with a man she had just met. It seemed like an innocent decision at the time, but it would mark the beginning of a chilling chain of events. What followed involved a disappearance, an international manhunt, a tangled love triangle, and a brutal murder. This is the story of Maricela Botelho Valadez and the tragic decisions that cost her life. Maricela had spent the weekend visiting an old friend in Dallas. She was scheduled to return to Seattle on October 5th, but when her flight was called, Maricela wasn't at the gate. Her seat remained empty, and calls to her phone went unanswered. Her family in Seattle grew concerned. Maricela was a responsible and loving daughter, not someone who would disappear without a word. Back in Dallas, her friend Raul Ortiz also began to worry. He told investigators that Maricela had gone out alone the previous night, visiting Deep Ellum, a vibrant area known for its nightlife. Surveillance footage from that night showed Maricela walking with an unidentified man before entering his black Audi A3. Investigators tracked the vehicle and identified the man as 31-year-old Charles Chuck Beltran, a club security worker with a criminal past. When investigators arrived at the Mesquite home of Charles Chuck Beltran, their suspicions deepened. Chuck wasn't there, and the house appeared to have been hastily abandoned. Belongings were scattered across the floor, and a mattress was left leaning against a wall. In the kitchen, food and cleaning supplies were left out, as though someone had abruptly fled. Forensic teams quickly went to work. Using Blue Star, a chemical agent that detects the presence of blood, they uncovered alarming evidence. Traces of blood were found in the bathroom and, most notably, in Chuck's bedroom. The stains on the carpet beneath a window tested positive for blood, and DNA analysis later confirmed it belonged to Maricela. Additional blood samples suggested the presence of two other individuals, a male and a female. Further investigation revealed Chuck wasn't living alone. Two women also resided in the house, 56-year-old Lisa Dykes and her 48-year-old wife, Nina Moreno. Cell phone data placed both women, along with Chuck, at the house during the early morning hours of October 5th, the last time Maricela was seen alive. As police pieced together the household dynamics, a bizarre picture emerged. Lisa, a paralegal, had been financially supporting Chuck, whom she described as an aspiring rapper. She had even purchased him the black Audi A3 he drove and set up a business in his name. Nina, meanwhile, was a lawyer who had joined the household in what appeared to be an unconventional arrangement. Both women had taken Chuck's last name, further complicating their already tangled relationships. Investigators also discovered an unusual altar in the home, featuring a statue of Santa Muerte, a figure associated with death in Mexican folk traditions. While its exact significance to the case wasn't immediately clear, it added to the eerie atmosphere of the investigation. Despite the mounting evidence, Chuck, Lisa, and Nina were nowhere to be found. Authorities issued warrants for all three, charging them with capital murder and evidence tampering. What began as a case of a missing person was rapidly becoming something far darker, a story of jealousy, obsession, and betrayal that would stretch across state lines and, eventually, continents. Months passed with no sign of Maricela or the suspects. For her family, the waiting was unbearable. They clung to the hope that Maricela might still be alive, even as evidence suggested otherwise.
Too much time is passing, and I'm afraid something has happened to her. If they could find it in their heart to tell where he is, I wouldn't want them to be suffering the pain I'm going through. It's very difficult not knowing anything.
Investigators focused their search efforts on areas identified through cell phone data from Lisa Dykes and Nina Moreno on the night of Maricela's disappearance. Their search concentrated on a wooded area near Hutchins, Texas, a remote location just south of Dallas. It was here that cell phone records showed both women had traveled shortly after the murder. Despite extensive efforts, including search teams combing the dense terrain and nearby water bodies, no trace of Maricela was found during those initial sweeps. Then, in March 2021, 5 months after her disappearance, a passerby made a chilling discovery. While searching for feral cats in the same wooded area, they stumbled upon what appeared to be a human skull. Authorities were called, and further investigation uncovered additional remains. Dental records confirmed the heartbreaking truth. The remains belonged to Maricela Botelho Valadez. The discovery of Maricela's body brought devastating closure to her family. But it also raised more questions than answers. Her remains were so badly decomposed from exposure to the elements and scavenging animals that the medical examiner was unable to determine a definitive cause of death. However, the location of Maricella's remains matched the data from Lisa and Nina's cell phones. Investigators were now certain that the women had been involved in the disposal of her body. The evidence was clear. Maricela had been murdered, and the suspects had gone to great lengths to cover their tracks. For Maricela's family, the discovery was a turning point. Their hopes of finding her alive were shattered, but it strengthened their resolve to seek justice. With Maricela's remains found, the investigation shifted its focus to tracking down Lisa, Nina, and Chuck, who had all vanished without a trace. The search for the suspects would soon turn into an international manhunt. Lisa, Nina, and Chuck were on the run. They had fled Texas, eventually making their way to Cambodia. Law enforcement worked with international authorities to track them down. In February 2022, the women were found in Sihanoukville, a seaside town in Cambodia. They were extradited back to Texas to face charges. Chuck was apprehended separately in Utah, hiding with an ex-girlfriend. By then, investigators had enough evidence to charge all three with capital murder and tampering with evidence. In 2023, the trials began, starting with Lisa Dykes.
At the conclusion of the evidence, I know at the conclusion of the evidence, what you are going to decide is that this young lady right here, sweet, fun-loving Maricela Botelho Valadez, that just came down here for a long weekend, was killed by Lisa Dykes. Her body dumped outside south of Dallas in Wilmer on a country road by Miss Dykes and her wife, Nina Morano.
Chuck, facing his own charges, decided to cooperate with prosecutors. He claimed that on the night of October 5th, Lisa entered his bedroom in a jealous rage and stabbed Maricela, who was asleep in his bed. According to Chuck, Nina entered the room after the murder and helped Lisa clean up the scene. Chuck said he fled the house, fearing no one would believe his innocence. Chuck's testimony painted Lisa as the mastermind, driven by jealousy and her obsession with him. The prosecution argued that Lisa had financed Chuck's lifestyle and couldn't tolerate him bringing another woman home.
I wake up to her screaming, saying, "Help me, help me." I guess just from all the movement going on in the bed, that's when I wake up and I see Lisa on top of her. She's like with the knife coming down like this. And once I noticed the knife, so I pushed Lisa off of her. Just my reaction was just to push her, and I pushed her hard. And her and Maricela like tumble over. Lisa still got a hold of her. As I get up, I'm still trying to process what the hell is going on. I'm trying to pry Lisa off of her, pull her apart. I look towards Lisa and I grab Lisa and I pin her to the wall and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" You know? And she's like, "I told you not to bring any more girls over here."
Lisa's defense painted a different picture. She denied any romantic relationship with Chuck, calling him a manipulative and violent man. She also claimed that the Santa Muerte shrine was Chuck's, not hers, and dismissed suggestions of witchcraft. Lisa testified that she was recovering from plastic surgery at the time of the murder and couldn't have physically committed the crime. She claimed she and Nina were only near Hutchins, where Maricela's remains were found, because they had gone to a FedEx depot for work-related reasons. The jury didn't believe Lisa's story. After just 90 minutes of deliberation, they found her guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. She was sentenced to life in prison, plus 20 years for the tampering charge. Nina and Chuck later pleaded guilty to evidence tampering, avoiding murder convictions. They both received reduced sentences, though their role in the events of that night remains deeply troubling.
And in this case, she swore on direct and swore on cross over and over and over again that she had no romantic or sexual relationship with Charles Beltran. Yet in her phone, that she is on talking to someone when she gets arrested in March of 2021, March 26th, his name is Lover.
Maricela was a bright, loving, and hardworking young woman whose life ended far too soon. Her family continues to mourn the loss of their daughter and sister. Maricela's brother, speaking at Lisa's sentencing, described the profound pain their family has endured. He emphasized that Maricela's decision to trust the wrong person shouldn't have cost her life. Thank you for watching and taking the time to hear Maricella's story. If this case moved you, please share it to raise awareness about the importance of personal safety and the ongoing fight for justice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Let's honor Maricella's memory by staying informed, supporting one another, and advocating for justice. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.